drop down, send the peeker right back up to take a hit, give yourself an opportunity to get away, and often maybe get quite a bit of damage out as well. So both of these champions work very nicely on ruins. Going to be an interesting slugfest.
We're loading in now. It's not going to be long until we start off this first map, a critical moment for everyone that lies in the lower bracket. This is where emotions can run high. I think your true player willpower gets tested, because this is where the chips are down. You lose this, you are out of the tournament, and we have to see you back in stage 3. Who can keep it together, play that mental mind game a little bit stronger? It's ZenAku versus DaHanG. We have the Scale Bearer, and we have the Strog. Let's get the show on the road, fleet.
Also worth noting, this is DaHanG's server pick, so this is in NA. Kicking it off on his point of view as well. Pretty decent rockets given the positioning, but out comes the rush and baited down the hole. That was a beautiful little olay for DaHanG, just completely out-positioning ZenAku, forcing him down. Somehow staying alive, even though that was a dire situation to be in.
Nice positioning. Kind of reminds me of those old mini games from like an RPG or something in the tutorial area. You got to round up a bunch of sheep into a pen or something, and they just follow you no matter what. That's kind of what happened there. Plus 1 point here for DaHanG. But on a serious note, though, we go into halfway through a next rotation of items. Heavy going to be the first objective, but there really isn't enough time between the two of them. You can take both, so both players have to make a choice. DaHanG, here we go. There's that rocket jump. But what's it going to do? Delay the inevitable. He avoids the bull rush, but he puts himself airborne to do it, and that is Lightning Gun City.
Could have made it all the way up top. He would have been safe. Unfortunately for him, all it did was buy him a few precious seconds while he fell right back down into the clutches of ZenAku. And now it is Zen who secured Mega. He doesn't really have a clean way of getting on Heavy, and as I say that, he just drops on it carelessly, rocket into rail. That is going to put him 1 more point in the lead. But Mega is the next item that he will have to forfeit. He just isn't in a position to make his way over there, and doesn't have the stack to just rocket jump out there as well.
And DaHanG, having this mobility, has an option to fly around the screen kind of willy-nilly, but you got to watch out. Looks like ZenAku is already prepared for where he is, hearing him run around up top. The next item, Heavy. In this case, the bull rush wastes no time to activate it, repositions, but he takes a fair amount of damage in the process, which will be a free Heavy take here from DaHanG. And what comes next? A Mega, no doubt. We have to play this careful match now. 1 rail, a Scale Bearer, an easier champion to hit. Almost there. DaHanG looking for a bit of a sneaky little angle.
I love that ZenAku just doesn't get locked into the bull rush when it doesn't favor him, right? He pops the button, and then the moment he realizes, like, oh, this is not the right time, I don't have the stack, DaHanG is a really good positioning, he just dances right on out there, changes course immediately and goes through the teleporter instead. So very flexible and adaptive approach to using that ability, which is very important when you're up against someone as DaHanG, who will always be ready for you to pull that kind of charge.
Sign of a specialist, a true master of the character, or champion in this case, where all of the small details, anyone can play any champion at this level of play, but it's the details, the things that make or break. And in ZenAku's case, it's having such a mastery of that bull rush to understand when is and isn't a good time to over-engage. Now Mega, the next item spawn, but with ZenAku sitting pretty on a substantial stack, I do not think he's going to be too focused on it. I think he's trying to set up for the next play. Keeps a favorable side of the map with a rail angle, perhaps almost finds it, but there we go. Oh, can't get it.
Yeah. That mess, or that miss, rather, the mess up, that's going to cost ZenAku. It's going to take even more damage here. DaHanG is going to chase, knowing that his opponent doesn't have any weapons. But those missed rails, those are unfortunate for the American, as he now positions himself for Mega. And again, ZenAku really like just how measured his approach to this is. Even though he probably could have made it onto Mega first, I think he realized that, you know, I only have heavy nail gun. I really don't want to commit. I might not have the exact timing. DaHanG has all the weapons, and so he just drops straight on down and gets out. Zero hesitation, completely fine with giving up a shot at taking the item if it means hanging on to this lead.
A wise man once said, "What's the rush?" Only
Yeah.
4 minutes taken past so far. DaHanG pushing forward, looking to secure some damage first. Unfortunately for him, though, wasn't quite able to land a rail. But it is, at the very least, going to keep a massive delay between both of these items. But it looks like he's not 100% familiar on where ZenAku actually is on the map so far. If he can keep his eyes set on these two items, he's going to keep control over the map. But he's just straight up looking for him at the moment, and he can't find him. Oh, hang on, there he is.
Yep. Caught sight of him. And now onto the chase. Oh, ZenAku. He's eyeing up that small armor. He wants it. DaHanG knows this. There we go. Bullrust gets used. ZenAku is left. Very low stack right now. The small armor is up. What is he going to do? He's just taking the bounce pad up a few times. Enjoying the trampoline. And now that DaHanG went for heavy, he's got a clear path onto the small armor up top.
It's a scary game to play for ZenAku, because protecting a lead of 1 frag, reality is it's not by much. And the momentum that a champion like Strog can work on, we even saw elements of that when ZenAku spawned. Was able to escape, especially thanks to a missed rail, but you go down and then Strog gets a good call out on where you're going to appear next. Even if you have a good starting stack, you have nothing to fight back, and he almost conceded a second one minutes ago. So this 1 frag that you could drop, in theory. Ooh, that's a nice rocket from ZenAku, though. The ball rush, lovely rocket placement, but it's going to be a trade. Okay, who spawns where? DaHanG, rail side. ZenAku takes all this damage, but he's going to pick up the Mega surely, and that will stop the bleeding. An interesting exchange, but DaHanG absolutely favorable on the side of weapons and positioning, because here comes the heavy. Just like that trade. We are very much back to square one, though.
If DaHanG had waited another half a second and kept on the shooting rather than the kamikaze, that would have been a surefire frag for the Liquid player. Might still get it though. Oh, nice little gauntlet to the face. Even if a second one would have connected, it still wouldn't have been a frag. And now ZenAku just rushing off spawn. Doesn't really have the weapons to work with, and DaHanG doing exactly what we talked about. Dropping down, sending the peeker up. Nice little juke there as well, but I do think that ZenAku should be able to get the frag
He's
here.
still alive. This is very surprising.
I think ZenAku didn't mean to drop down towards rail, but he kind of just overshot the jump, or rather the turn, and dropped down. And now it is DaHanG for the first time this map in the lead. ZenAku trailing by just 1 frag, still has plenty of time to work with.
It is certainly not every day you see someone juke the ball rush by simply moving. That was an impressive display from DaHanG, and he is going to have to show much respect, as now that 1 rail sets up the end, and another frag drops into favor of ZenAku, who has a giant stack. Now DaHanG does spawn near where he just went down, so he's going to have a rail at the very least, without having to overextend to get it. But now, the warpath. ZenAku, the ball rush begins, dropping all the way down. DaHanG is playing this fight so slippery! Does a bunch of damage, but it's not enough to stop the gargantuan stack of ZenAku, who's in perfect position. The Mega in hand. And now with the heavy about to spawn. ZenAku in position for it, but without armor for now. This is a scary game to play. Hanging around a bit too long, perhaps.
I think it was more so that he stuck to the heavy nail gun
Oh,
a bit
what?
too long, but hang on. 3 rails in a row, that'll do the trick. Now all the pressure is on DaHanG.
DaHanG pointing at himself there. I kind of almost wonder if he's kind of like, that was on me. Because he knows it was, you know, pushing forward and taking the fight.
Yeah.
And he's very self-critical, but in this case, understanding when to forget about it. What is going on?
I was still on ZenAku, and he misses a rail on DaHanG standing still, and then he bull rushes straight into the wall and kills his ability right off the bat. So that was a bit of a misplay by the Australian, but ultimately no harm, no fall. But all the pressure is on DaHanG right now. He's got just over a minute left to work with, 2 frags to secure still, just to tie it up and bring it into overtime.
A really
rails
nice
are
rail,
on.
but the problem is,
Yeah.
Flea, you have to land that killing blow as well. ZenAku dies at a critical moment. DaHanG, this is a great opportunity for the American. I mean, look at the stack he's working on. The fact that ZenAku has only just spawned, he surely has to play this runaway game. He goes to fire close range, but is it going to be enough? No, it will not. DaHanG lands a frag. And now with 40 seconds on the clock, this is a key opportunity. ZenAku, can he land a fight? Can he stop DaHanG from getting too stacked? Heavy appears next, surely. I mean, DaHanG's nowhere near it. And that is a scary rail to take with 20 seconds left to go before we enter the inevitable sudden death. But ZenAku, that's a good rail to start. 2 rails. Count him up. The ball rush. He looks to escape and the damage reduction. He still gets away, but the rails back to back.
ZenAku was not expecting that to go wrong. Oh, DaHanG proving himself to be so skilled at sidestepping those bull rushes. He constantly just zoomed ZenAku's best efforts time and time again, and that is such a shame. I think it all started going wrong in those final few minutes where ZenAku made some pretty crucial mistakes. The main one, the real tipping point, is when ZenAku was set up for heavy and he was just shooting the heavy nail gun towards the corridor, missing just about all of his shots even though he was already in LG range, and then DaHanG just kind of walks in on him with the LG out, and before you know it, ZenAku is forced into the retreat. DaHanG secures the item, gets a frag, and then everything goes wrong from there.
Bit of a misstep in the closing minute and a half or so, and one that hopefully ZenAku can, for lack of a better term, get over, because not many opportunities now. One map already down, and a map that ZenAku, by all accounts, should have had, but great management of fighting this Scale Bearer on the side of DaHanG. I liked his movement against Scale Bearer. That was thoroughly impressive. ZenAku going for those big plays near the end where he kind of knows he's going to get chased through teleporter and he tries to get really big damage. Whether he should have every time, I guess, is up for debate, because sometimes, especially near the end when he had nail gun, I believe, and it's hard to predict him coming out on top. Now, he can get damage, spawn with a fresh stack, push forward, you can set up for the next play, as it were, but yeah, definitely a bit of a question mark at the end there, Flea.
I also just realized that this is an exact repeat of what we saw just a few weeks ago when DaHanG and ZenAku met during the weeklies. They picked Ruins, Exile, Deep Embrace in that order, which are the exact same maps that we're getting to see today. Now, I don't remember the exact champion picks for that lineup, but this is kind of going the same way. Ruins already went to DaHanG. This is now a crucial moment for ZenAku. His tournament life is on the line. But he didn't look too shabby, right? Yes, DaHanG won, but it really came down to the last minute or so, and ZenAku really made him work for it.
And as we enter Exile, another map that can force combat upon you, and especially when we have these 2 large champions, one of which being the Sorlag, we can have a bit of an all-out brawl on our hands, I think, as we go forward. But a slight upper hand now for DaHanG, taking that first map, but having to fight tooth and nail for it. We could still go into a 2-1. And a critical moment now for ZenAku, losing this map and you're out of the tournament. His grind has been severe, and I still think he's playing incredibly well. DaHanG was able to just play a little bit better and capitalize on those rare mistakes in the closing couple of minutes of Ruins. And now, new map, a new opportunity to refresh and start again.
I mean, you can't forget, right? ZenAku already knocked out both Kilson and Garpy out of the tournament, so this is a success by any metric, of course. I don't think he'll see it that way until he actually gets where he wants to, but nevertheless, the man has already put up a really solid performance this finals. So let's take a look at the second map in this series. It is going to be Exile, to see whether or not ZenAku can make the comeback happen.
ZenAku has movement on his side to hang with just the sheer utility of damage, but he gets pushed off immediately. And that is just Exile things right there. They both clash trying to take that railgun, and that is what it is. Pushing him off immediately and securing that first frag. Keeping those timings in mind. A nice prediction and readiness from ZenAku. Waits for the jump pad, punishes with a rail.
I think we can expect a lot of damage being dealt. 2 heavies going at it. ZenAku is the better positioning for this one. And DaHanG pushing like a madman despite being railable. That was a huge risk. I think that DaHanG probably expected ZenAku to make his way over to Heavy instead. But the Lizard was still sitting out and about towards Mega. Could have absolutely been a 2-0 if ZenAku had the right weapon out. But I feel like they both were just kind of caught by surprise of, oh, you're also here. Let's just break away quickly and see what happens next.
What a coincidence. Bang. Lies predictive rocket there from DaHanG, who has been playing a thoroughly respectful minute and 15 seconds. He loses that first frag. He knows that ZenAku has more stack than he does. A little bit of bonus information. I think that damage over time is at least going to help ZenAku time the Mega, knowing that he's nearby. But there's been so much patience coming out from DaHanG. There might not be so much now. He's looking to more pursue and get damage rather than last time. I think he was looking to just not get ambushed, really.
Now we're really starting to see the game slow down after that initial unfortunate opener for DaHanG. Both players are just kind of sticking to their side of the map. ZenAku picking up most of the megas, DaHanG securing the heavies. That's a nice bit of damage though. A rail and a grenade going to chew away at ZenAku's stack at least somewhat. But the major items are still basically on an identical timer.
Now that armor's going to be good for DaHanG, but it's going to do nothing to stop the damage over time! Straight up the jump pad! Methinks that DaHanG was not prepared for such a play.
I just think DaHanG overpeaked slightly. You know, he put himself too far over the edge, and then ZenAku got one good burst of LG damage, and he was like, you know what? I've got you on the ropes. Now I can push, even go up the bounce pad against the situation you're in. So ZenAku off to a very solid start. Neither player really establishing control though. So even though ZenAku is up in terms of the score, he still mainly only succeeds at securing one of the items. And now he's in such a bad spot with DaHanG reading it perfectly. Getting a nice frag right off the bat and almost taking away that entire mega with that last rail there as well.
Nice patience from DaHanG as well. Being able to hold that rail just on the ahead jump, really, rather than trying to just get the flick, wait for him to inevitably move forward. You know he's going to do it. One of the safer rails that you can land, I think, in this kind of position. He's not exactly going to sit around and not jump over the gap in that position. 2-1 currently. Not as many frags as you might expect, but plenty as much damage. A bit of defensive play from ZenAku. Landing that plasma is going to give him some information over where DaHanG's pushing forward. He's going to have to concede this mega, no doubt. But as a lead belongs to ZenAku, almost getting shades of Ruins of Sarnath fleet. With ZenAku, he's more focused on protecting the lead right now than establishing full control.
DaHanG does have an opportunity to manifest himself even further now, especially after that rocket. LG on LG, ZenAku surely will drop down dead. And now, can DaHanG secure both? It looks like he might have a rotation going on. ZenAku is just going to throw himself at the item. Very risky play with nothing but the nail gun. He does steal away the mega. That was a costly investment with both of these players. ZenAku really not looking too shabby, but this might prove to be too much. Oh! The grenade bouncing off the wall behind him into his back.
Just keel moments right there, Flea. The disappointing 20 damage on the SSG and the good fortune of the pineapple with the rebound. But now we keep the situation of 4-3. ZenAku remains one frag ahead. And we're about to hit the halfway point of this Exile. Remember, folks, DaHanG did narrowly win that first map. If ZenAku loses this, he is out of there.
Looking focused as always. Maneuvering himself onto the heavy. And that's of course nice when you can kill an opponent at that moment of a rotation. You can basically just take over, right? And you can be like, okay, so you had heavy and then 10 seconds later mega. Well, now I'll just absorb and adopt the same cycle and continue along the same trend. And now just look at that massive stack that ZenAku has to work with. DaHanG unable to get anything more than just the base stack, which, let's not underestimate it, is a fair bit on a heavy champion. Damage from above is pretty solid too. ZenAku does manage to get away to heavy, but he pays a heavy price. Rail together with the spit, catch up, deadly combo.
And now with some rails to push forward. Unfortunately, ZenAku wasn't able to get a couple more. Was looking for it and had the opportunity for that bonus damage, especially right as the Mega spawns in DaHanG. The fresh spawn stack and a Mega. Let's go. We throw down. Heavy is going to be that next objective. Whoa! ZenAku nearly getting knocked off the map to boot, and that would have relied heavily on who spawns where. DaHanG did spawn near light, so maybe ZenAku would have spawned closer to it. But no time to reflect on that now, as he has an impressive 3-frag lead, and we could very well go into a final map the way things are going. Nice prediction spit.
ZenAku definitely has been doing a lot of work, a lot of damage with that spit. Oh, can he find the final shot? DaHanG dropping down. Nice bit of damage. It's a good thing that DaHanG had that small armor down below, because if he didn't, he would have given up yet another frag. Now we're about to enter the final 3 minutes of this game, and ZenAku adds one more to the board as well.
Good position for Mega once more, just keeping that rotation locked in, looking for DaHanG, and DaHanG having to play this slow defensive game. But is running out of time to make those big plays. The further the divide between score in general grows between these large champions, the scarier it can be, because you know they're going to spawn with a large stack. You have so much work to do. And DaHanG, that work grows by the frag. And now it looks like ZenAku is in a perfect position to set up and get comfortable, and with the way things are going, probably win this Exile pick. DaHanG goes down again. This should by all means be a GG.
Yeah. Loving the positional play in many of these encounters as well by ZenAku. He's using that spit so early on in these fights because he knows that that damage over time helps him tremendously, and then he just forces DaHanG to push in, or rather stay stuck in a corner, and ZenAku is just waiting at the exit going like, well, I can see your health ticking down. How long do you want to delay? How long do you want to give me free damage and advantage in this encounter? So really clever positional play. Now DaHanG, unable to make his way up onto the Mega on time, will perish once more to the toxicity of Zorlak. With 2 minutes left, Ketchup, I'm inclined to agree. I don't really think that DaHanG has a shot here anymore.
Oh, definitely not. On top of giant spawn stack, on top of delaying respawns and all that stuff, it's not a combination that DaHanG is interested in. And that will be now one map apiece. DaHanG was able to keep it together and thoroughly display the end of Ruins. And Exile has been pretty one-sided for ZenAku. I'm curious over that final pick, which if memory serves, will be Deep Embrace. And this is a critical point for both players, just like that. ZenAku will just keep this circuit going. DaHanG, no doubt, will be thinking about the next map. Things remain to be close here, Flea. I love it. The finals. This is what it's all about. That final map scenario.
Indeed, it all comes down to the tiebreaker, the decider of this series. I really do like how patient and measured ZenAku's approach has been so far. There's been all these situations where he's even given up control over the major items just to make sure he can hang on to the lead, trusting in his own ability to avoid his opponent long enough to get stacked right back up. And that just shows how disciplined he is going into these matchups. And I think that he's really starting to develop a bit of his own style, right? A lot of people, at least for a while, were very much looking at ZenAku as a kind of cookie-cutter player who just, you know, he goes through the motions, plays the game in the most standard way possible. Which isn't to say that that is not an effective way, even at the highest levels, but now you're really starting to see more and more personality come into how he approaches these matches.
ZenAku was a slow burner. It took him pretty much an entire stage to get even comfortable in this Pro League setting, and now here we are at a finals, one map apiece, and we're going into a decider. You'd gone for a prediction of this a year ago, you probably wouldn't have expected it to go this way, yet here we are. ZenAku 11-6 on Exile. In the closing moments of that map, ZenAku's kind of just making sure he keeps the lead, and if you do frag me, hey, it'll just take ages. Let's just run the clock, as we do, and finish things up, as now we are going to enter that final frontier, the Deep Embrace, a map that we didn't get to see DaHanG play on the winner's side. I know we were concerned about his Athena with the way it was going against Wenger, especially seeing as there was definitely going to be a stack mismatch. But the Athena was straight up removed this time round, so we're not going to see it at all. I think a little bit of personal experience coming out there with the Athena ban, perhaps. And just looking through the replays, it's very much ZenAku being considerably on top of the stack, and DaHanG having to play that patient game. I think there was very little moments on Exile where DaHanG was in control of anything. It was pretty much the ZenAku show, I think.
Yep, indeed. Now the final map, Deep Embrace, like you said. First matchup in this series that we are not getting a heavy champion. It is indeed the battle of the mediums, Doomslayer, picked by DaHanG, versus the Ranger by ZenAku. So two champions with a pretty serious focus on that mobility. On the one hand, Doomslayer, the double jump, really useful, especially around that heavy area of the map. Because we've seen it time and time again, right? Even during these finals, players still mess up that jump. It is a very tricky one too, especially when your other player is on your tail dishing out damage, and with Doomslayer you can basically negate that entirely. On the other hand, Ranger is also a very powerful champion because keeping control of that top center area of the map is so vital, because you can really lock down the bounce pads up. But with Ranger, you can kind of circumvent that entirely.
So we have a quick little BRB from DaHanG, so it'll probably be a couple of minutes before we jump into Deep Embrace, whether he's just given himself a minute or so. Remember, this is a very important moment in this tournament for both players. This stream activity, this is lower bracket action. Whoever loses here is out of the tournament, and it'll be another 3 months or so of stage action in the weeklies before we have this final opportunity again. So a lot riding on the next 10 minutes, I would say. I don't know why I fumbled that. But here we go for the rest of the match. Who do you think has this upper hand, Flea, the way things are going here?
Difficult to call. After the first map, you know, you're inclined to say DaHanG because he had a really strong showing, but now map 2, this was very dominant by ZenAku. And if we look at Deep Embrace, historically, yes, DaHanG has the upper hand, and I would favor him, but I feel like ZenAku, that momentum is now working in his favor. Ranger, I think, is a really good pick for him on this map. It's so difficult to say, but I am not at all counting ZenAku out. I think that he has a really good shot at winning this map as well.
Well, looks like DaHanG's back, so he should be jumping into this match as soon as possible. And it's been a great series so far. You know, we had that close exchange on the Ruins, not so close on Exile, and this is a do or die moment. We are now loading in. Should be Doomslayer versus the Ranger, the two poster boys, both of which highly effective on that Deep Embrace. But I like what we see from ZenAku. We've been talking about his growth as a player this whole time. It's great to see this stage where we're pretty late in the bracket at this point. We're going up against DaHanG, a player that has been consistently dominant for kind of as long as Quake Champions has been competitive. There's a lot of people out there cheering on ZenAku, really happy of his progress, and this is just another demonstration of how far he's come. I'd love to see him go a lot. Huge fan of DaHanG, but I like a good upset too, and this is just a great opportunity for ZenAku to push even further beyond.
Absolutely, he's already had a very strong showing. This would be the cherry on top down at the lower bracket. For those of you just joining us, this is a lower bracket matchup, which means that the loser of this next map is dropping out of the stage finals. So please, make yourself be heard. I want to see some fans in the chat. Who's here for ZenAku? Who wants to see the Liquid DaHanG take this one? Chat, who do you think is going to take it? I'm seeing the predictions going up. Relatively equal as far as I can tell, with a bit of an edge to DaHanG, if I'm not mistaken. But still, so far, it's really a pretty close one.
This is a make some virtual noise moment right here, because we're loading in. I see the green in the menu, and now we're launching the server. We're going to jump into the final moments here between DaHanG and ZenAku, and that Deep Embrace, which has become a bit of a fan favorite, I think. I really enjoy watching this map. I love playing on this map. And it's great to see the kind of different edge that champions can put forward here. It is similar to an Awoken, as everyone always says, but when we start to see the Doomslayer come to pass, you just don't have to worry about mobility at all. It's purely just focus on the match at hand. Curious over who's going to get which side spawn as well, as we're loading into Deep Embrace as we speak.
Quite curious to see whether we're going to see another explosive opening like we did on Exile. or if it is going to be much more of a restrained, slow-paced opening. Now that, of course, everything comes down to this, and I think there's a lot of people who would not expect to see DaHanG in this position already. Kicking it off, ZenAku's point of view, the Ranger spawning on the Mega and LG side.
Now that versus Doomslayer is going to be not too shabby. If we have those close range encounters, we know how a good placed LG can work wonders. But I like that DaHanG's already showing it a lot of respect. We've taken those opening items. We have a little bit of time before they spawn. Right now, it's all about just that initial rail damage. And a rail of which ZenAku has been blocked away from getting so far. Very much part of the plan right there.
This is one of those classic openings when it comes to Deep Embrace, right? DaHanG keeping control of the rocket and the rail side. ZenAku still kind of sitting on the lightning gun. This means that Zen is really not in a position to take the long distance fight. But DaHanG, when it comes down to the medium distance, well, he's completely outclassed without a lightning gun. That opening rail, that's going to help a lot. That is going to be maybe a sign for DaHanG to kind of kick into a higher gear. Tried to make his way over to the other side of the map to pick up the weapons that he still needs.
And at the
very passive start, though.
Yeah, and at the same time, just that tactical rocket jump on the off chance that ZenAku was going to try and get a rocket. We can go in, take that heavy, and maybe try and block it off. But ZenAku hasn't even tried just yet. Although DaHanG has been the one kind of keeping ZenAku at arm's reach, he now has the LG in hand, whereas ZenAku still doesn't have a rocket or a rail. So this has been a slow-paced beginning. ZenAku behind on the weapons and the items, but at the end of the day, it's still 0-0. All it takes is one good fight, one good opportunity. An opportunity that's hard to present itself when all you've got is an LG, but with LG like that, it's not too bad. But we have to worry about the fact that there's no armor to be had. ZenAku going for the Mega is too risky, and DaHanG, the close range rail. Okay, I see you.
That was actually a really clever play from ZenAku right there, because you could tell that DaHanG was completely convinced that his opponent was going for Mega, right? He had the rail out. So ZenAku was banking on DaHanG misreading him, getting caught out with the rail, missing the shot, and then 1-2 shotgun blasts would have guaranteed him the kill. But unfortunately for ZenAku, DaHanG, he's got some skills with the railgun, landing the shot at point blank range and putting himself 1 point in the lead.
Another opening rail, though. Trying to create some kind of opportunity. ZenAku has this heavy. The Mega in hand. DaHanG just picking it up. That's going to give timing to both players, no doubt. A nice preemptive rail. DaHanG ready for the angle fresh off the jump pad, but with ZenAku sitting on a lot more armor. One rail, and that can create that opening. Heavy's going to be the next time to spawn, but he gets caught slipping. Somehow able to hit that rail. I'm watching that one from ZenAku's point of view. There was barely a sight there. Mid-flick, man's getting out and he hits the rail at least.
And that is why Doom works so well on this map. ZenAku kind of had his angle on those side pegs to get up there, but DaHanG just double jumps straight to the middle, and the Australian was not prepared for it. Will make his way over to Mega, still denies it to his opponent, but drops down quickly. Now taking a fair bit of damage, trying to secure a railgun as well. But the damage, the return damage is not bad at all. ZenAku is still keeping this a competitive game. DaHanG still unable to get full control.
There's the click. No more rocket rounds here for DaHanG. Able to pick up 5, which is nice. The next item. ZenAku once more trying to play this safe. He hasn't overextended too fast. I think right now it's been DaHanG just having this element of surprise, the mobility of Doomslayer and the sneaky elements of just repositioning when you're not expecting it. The rail, as you might expect, I think a pretty important factor. Speaking of, looking for a bit more. Have to be careful from the rocket department though, as DaHanG doesn't have a lot of them, has to quickly detour just to take a few more. But he's been confident so far, comfortable. Wow, ZenAku sitting there lying in wait, not really able to get much opening damage, but a rocket jump! He goes for a giant push, but this goes a bit pear-shaped.
That was so aggressive, and he doesn't get the damage he needed. That allows DaHanG to make his way onto Mega first. It does appear as if Zen is going to be able to secure the heavy at the very least. He's actually out-attacking his opponent slightly by now. But DaHanG, his positioning, his mobility is excellent as always, just holding control of the center area of the map, constantly applying pressure and doing damage. ZenAku once again the brazen rocket jump, lands a rail, but takes one in return. And finally, does Zen find the shot through the middle, gets himself a frag on the board at last. There's a perfect split between Mega and Heavy. So again, no convincing control by either one of these players.
DaHanG looking to keep some long-range damage on deck with as good as it's going to get right now. And LG, but ZenAku trying to go on the warpath, taking a bunch of damage in the meantime. But I think a calculated push of damage because there are resources all over the place. Caught with the rail out again, kind of similar in the opposite direction. Was not expecting DaHanG to push forward like that. And DaHanG gets a frag on the board, but also just in time for the major item to spawn. This Mega is going to go into his hands. And we've gone past now that halfway mark. This is where it's the final moments for ZenAku. Can he get some frags now?
That orb, that's what screwed him over right there. He just was expecting DaHanG to be closer, and then he misses any damage entirely, and so he's just standing out there in the open, has to walk back towards the minor item that spawned behind him, and by that point DaHanG had already done plenty of damage and got yet another frag. ZenAku is the first to set up on Heavy, but he doesn't have rockets, he doesn't have LG. All he's got to work with is the railgun and of course the super shotgun. Now he finally finds the second part of that crucial kit that he wants to get his hands on. Good rails, but he needs more. He needs so much more. He can't afford to miss these shots when DaHanG is pelting him with LG, because that's how you bleed out so quickly.
And an important push there from DaHanG. You know the pressure's on. You know that tensions are high. If these rails are missing, well, I'm just going to keep pushing forward. It reaches a point where you can't expect to take that damage, but if they're consistently not hitting the shots, DaHanG will not have that problem. And secure another frag, looking to be a second one. ZenAku has no orb and a starting machine gun. What do you do to survive under these circumstances? Uh-oh. Oh, repays it with another one.
I feel like there were a few bouts of aggression that were ultimately uncalled for on ZenAku's ends. Orbing up, not knowing exactly where DaHanG is, and then just kind of wandering around with DLG, looking for his targets.
You could barely see the bottom of his shoe, and somehow he finds it, Flea. DaHanG is playing on this next level, and the pressure is on for ZenAku. He has no time, but he has to make something happen.
Heavy does get taken by ZenAku, but he needs more than just resources. With 2 minutes left to go, DaHanG can just completely ignore every single item on the map and just use that superior mobility of his to stay clear from ZenAku. He's going to give up Heavy, he's going to let him take Mega. ZenAku does get a frag. 5 frags, 2 minutes, not impossible, difficult, sure, but it is possible. We've seen it before.
Making this kind of comeback on a Doomslayer, he's only going to spawn with Berserk and a starting weapon. It's not kind of like a Keel or something similar where you push him on spawn or they can just delete. DaHanG is going to have to worry about it, but he gets so much defending damage, misses the rail, and if there was a chance, I fear that chance has now been snuffed away as DaHanG secures another frag. Pushing forward from that Mega, a good rail, a second good rail, but he needs more. The fact that he couldn't get the kill shot, this is taking so long, hits another one, but 5 frags in a minute and a half. I'm not so sure anymore, Flea.
ZenAku's aim just failed him in that encounter. Had the better positioning, had the better stack, but still doesn't land the shots he needed with the LG. He's still pushing ahead though. Gets a frag at a good time too, just before the Mega spawns. 4 frags in 1 minute, 15 seconds apiece.
Gotta find him right now.
Yeah, DaHanG is so slippery. He catches him out. That might be one. But
no!
He misses the rail, and that is going to be the final nail in this coffin. I think that DaHanG, even punching him out one more time, is going to secure his victory and guarantee continuation within the Stage 2 finals. And we will have to say goodbye to ZenAku for the time being.
For the time being the keyword here. DaHanG progressing on in this bracket. ZenAku had one hell of a run and took out some big names to reach this point. So I think a lot of ZenAku fans out there will still be proud of the progress that we've seen from this stage finals. And we have an entirely new stage after this to see that continued growth. But today, DaHanG The man of the hour absolutely has 15 seconds left of reflection, breathing a sigh of relief. The GGs come through. DaHanG eliminates ZenAku.
He had to fight for it. Definitely not like the last time they fought, which was DaHanG's final game of the weeklies of this stage, where he kind of just rolled over ZenAku in a very convincing 3-0 victory. This was nothing like that. It was competitive until at the very end. ZenAku, that game on Exile, was expertly played, but he just wasn't able to rival DaHanG on this final map. It started towards the very beginning, DaHanG just cleverly positioning himself, denying key weapons and the railgun accuracy. That was just a huge part of DaHanG's strategy. And it felt like every single time that ZenAku finally got something to work with, DaHanG just punished him for it. And I also feel like DaHanG, or ZenAku rather, made quite a few of these little blunders that, you know, they start adding up over time. An orb that puts you slightly too far out in the open, you take too much damage, a rocket jump or an aggressive orb up when you don't exactly know where your opponent is at, and then you waste a precious second scrambling around looking for where your opponent is, and so you drop another frag. And those kinds of things, you know, they all add up and help DaHanG secure a win.
And that's not even factoring in the mishaps in the closing moments of the first map. A map that definitely could have gone in the favor of ZenAku, and then Exile being as one-sided as it was. We could have been sitting here 10 minutes ago talking about a 2-0 to ZenAku. So absolute fight in him. But DaHanG moving forward. Now, DJ Wheat, welcome back.
Yes. Hello. Agree. Flea, competitive to the very end. I just want to say, obviously, congratulations to DaHanG. But I really think that ZenAku, his performance over the stage, his performance here has been remarkable. And every time, you know, we get a chance to evaluate how a player's looking during these stage finals, makes us excited for what they might yield in terms of results in the next upcoming stage. And I think ZenAku is absolutely a player that, based off the performance of this weekend, more players are, more fans are absolutely going to be watching his journey throughout stage 3. He should be very proud of what he's accomplished, and even though he might be out, I certainly have enjoyed, and I know many others watching the chat, a lot of new fans, and a lot of, been there from the beginning fans of ZenAku as well. So good job, great display. I did think that DaHanG probably wanted to bring back some justice after his loss to Wenger. It was unfortunate that ZenAku is in the path, but honestly, I think he should be tremendously proud for how much he's improved and what he accomplished here this week.
Here.
Yep, not much to add to that. Well played, ZenAku, taking down some really big names like Kilson in a convincing manner too. So well played, nothing to feel bad about, and DaHanG still got an entire tournament ahead of him.
Yes, he does. He's going to be moving on. He'll play the winner of Cypher versus Dramus. And I believe that if everyone stands by for a moment, that we might be able to get DaHanG on the horn to talk to him a little bit about that matchup. Potentially, I'd love to ask him a couple questions about his matchup versus Wenger, which is, you know, a little brutal. But he can look ahead and has a little break until tomorrow. Possibly, actually, might have one more matchup today that he'll have to play. So either Cypher or Dramus will have to wait and see. But gentlemen, we're more than halfway through the day, the second day here, as we prepare to get DaHanG on. I'm curious, you know, to hear you guys' thoughts on favorite moments or matches of today's events.
Well, one of my favorite series of the day so far, and one that a few people might not have even seen because it was on the B stream, was Base versus CNZ. That was a 2-1 down to the final map. We got to see that traditional Base defense where he kind of exploded in the first minute or so with Ranger, and then played that just highly defensive game for the remaining 9 minutes. And CNZ was this close to making a full comeback, and it seems to always be the case when those two players go head-to-head. You know, former teammates, and when they play, you know you're going to get a patient game. But as down to the wire as the final map was, that was so close for CNZ moving on forward. So definitely a good match, that one.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Go ahead, Flea. I ask you the same question.
Same question. Well, my favorite matchup of the day must have still been Rafa versus Maxter, right? I think that that's already going to go down into history as a fan favorite. game where I was literally on the edge of my seat for the entire duration, just Maxter playing out of his mind, securing that second map. I've got to agree with ZSX there. I don't think I've ever seen Rafa lose like that in the Quake Pro League with such a scoreline. And then it came down to the final map. Maxter this close to securing that 2-1 victory and knocking Rafa down into the lower brackets. And it was so hype to see just how good Maxter has gotten. So that was my personal favorite so far.
I mean, those were two perfect answers, too, because Ketchup, you mentioned Base and his win over CNZ, and Flea, you mentioned Maxter. Not a win over Rafa, but certainly a good one, because the next matchup that we're going to see on this stream is going to be Maxter versus Base. And, based off of how Maxter's been playing, I wouldn't want to be in Base's shoes right now, but also we're the opponent himself, so very excited about that one. I believe as well, over on the B stream, we just got word that Sib was able to eliminate Chain 2-1, winning the final game, and so he will advance on and play Nazfa, I believe, in just a little bit over on the B stream as well. And ladies and gentlemen, sounds like we have the winner from our previous matchup. He took out ZenAku in 2 maps. DaHanG, welcome. How's it going?
Hey, thanks. It's going well. Appreciate it.
Good. I actually want to ask you a little bit about your round of 8 matchup in the quarterfinals. Wenger, who has certainly been improving over the course of the stage, really came out with a wild and very, I would say, aggressive style. Would love to hear your thoughts on, playing against Wenger and sort of how that match was for you.
I mean, he played really well, but pretty much every engagement, the initial half second into it, I'm already taking more damage than giving. And when you start every single fight getting hit harder, it's just like kind of insurmountable if they're playing their A game. And I remember on Corrupted Keep, at the end of the, it just didn't feel good at all the whole game. And then I look, 25% LG, which is something like I never hit that low. I mean, burden's on me to do better than that. It doesn't matter who the opponent is. So
sure.
He just outfought me and played positionally very well as well.
So let's talk about more, I think, the current circumstances for where you are in tournament. There's not a lot of players out there in Quake champions that can be in this Pro League situation and be in this kind of tournament bracket where you've got a lower bracket and a last lifeline. And as I want to ask you this as someone who is very much, I think, a seasoned veteran, right? You are now in this lower bracket position. It's the last lifeline. Do you feel like that changes your philosophy on the matches? Does it do anything to alter your game? Or I kind of just want to pick your brains about what being in lower bracket does to you as a player.
Doesn't really do anything to me. I mean, I just play right through it and I try to bring my A game every time if possible. Yeah. Winner bracket, lower bracket, but it just feels like it's just there's an element of randomness that's, I'm not placing blame, but it's on myself. But it's like, why do I miss so many times one game? Why do I hit so well another game? Like when I was watching Razy and Cypher play, they just hit each other. So it's like a boxing match. They're just hitting. That's what it just feels like to me. And watching Maxter play really well too. So just doesn't matter where I am in the tournament. It feels like it's just mechanical execution, which is, it's everything.
Awesome.
Okay, well, DaHanG, first of all, congratulations. I have a question about the game that you just played, or rather how it compares to the previous time you faced ZenAku, because you played him just a few weeks ago, exact same maps in the exact same order, and it felt like that was a much more convincing win. So has something changed? Do you feel like ZenAku has just really stepped it up now that he's in the finals, or how do you compare these two series?
So I think he was playing really well at the beginning of stage 2. Then he legitimately seemed like he went through a little bit of a slump. And then toward the end of stage 2, he actually started really picking it up again. And you actually notice this during practice games. and he's, you know, at a much better place right now. He's on, you know, he's kind of peaking for where he's at, and I think that's why it was a lot closer, and I wasn't able to just, you know, convincingly take him down.
Okay, thank you.
Well, DaHanG, congratulations, keeping yourself alive. You've got potentially Cypher, or the winner of Cypher versus Dramas, so I'm sure you're going to want to start preparing for that matchup that I believe is still being played today. But congratulations, great job throughout stage 2, and good luck for the remainder of the finals.
All right, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. DaHanG moves on over ZenAku 2-1 in an impressive display, winning map 1 on Ruin and map 3 on Deep Embrace. And now we are going to be